So we've got Luis Masaveu from Spain out here. He's a young phenom that's been tearing up the golf world.
He's already at that level where we're starting to look at, could definitely merge into professional golf. He's a very good amateur player.
Luis has got a couple questions about his golf swing and wanted to make sure that he was doing all the right stuff in the gym to make sure his body doesn't break down. He's right on that cusp of becoming a professional golfer and wants to make sure his game is as sharp as it can be.
I kind of watched for a few things, setup traits. Is there anything that kind of jumps out at me when I look at their golf swing? If you had a strength, what would it be? Would it be driving? Would it be wedges? Driver? Yeah. Okay. If you had a weakness, what would it be? Would it be wedges, finesse, short?
Wedges, definitely.
Wedges, definitely? Okay. Beautiful swing, beautiful motion. I think there's a couple things.
I'm not very consistent with the
strike.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes hit it very low or very high.
He tends to get the club a little bit up and across.
Doing it very steep, so either I hit it very low and cut,
Got it.
or just pulling it.
Okay.
So at the top of the backswing, a lot of times we look at where the club is pointing. Is it pointing down the line? Is it a little bit laid off? Or is it pointing kind of across the line? And he gets a little across the line.
Sometimes I do this,
Yeah.
which doesn't help to...
Yeah. Well, look at all that. He also stands quite far away from the golf ball. So when you stand a long way from the golf ball, club will come in a little bit, and that could be it.
Tend to get just like behind my club.
Yeah. So this is why, like, when you get a little bit across, when you get a little bit across, the club has to shallow.
Yeah, it has to shallow, and sometimes I get like that. Yeah.
Okay. But you know, I don't like to make any judgments ahead of time. I like to get all the data first, and then we'll figure it out from there.
And we're going to extend. Either of those harder?
The right arm.
That damn right arm. So we saw in the gym after doing a physical screen on Luis that we had a couple limitations. Either of those harder? No, right. Just a little. I'm just going to saw your right side off and we're going to be all good. Now Dave mentioned when he was warming up on the range that he was across the line, and across the line can be caused by some of these physical limitations. When you go to the top of the backswing, the shaft should be pointing at your target. If it actually keeps rotating where it goes across the plane of the target, so it's actually pointing to the right of your target for a right-handed player, that would be across the line.
So we're looking for these little screens to decide, is it something physically that's causing them to do that?
Arm out, stand tall, just go ahead and rotate that. Go left. To prevent cross the line, you need rotation. Rotating well through your hip, rotating through your spine, rotating through your shoulder, extending your wrist. If you don't rotate, the club tends to get across the line. It's important to get him into the 3D bays so we can really see how his body's contributing to his swing. He goes early horizontal torque before he goes frontal plane torque. So that's very common when you're trying to bring the club more out in front of you.
He's across the line, and he goes twist first. I think everybody that gets across has to have that.
Are you a more information or less information kind of guy?
I just do what my coach says.
So that's less information. Okay, first. Most players, when you get to the top of the backswing, right, the first thing that you typically do is you weight shift. Okay, so you start to shift your weight. As you shift your weight, usually the club drops down, right? You do this, then you start rotating, and you hit the ball. With your driver, you do that. It's pretty good. With your iron, you get to the top, and your first move is you twist a little bit. Now you're going to start to drop it over here, and when you do it later, it can create some issues there. And the first thing he would do is he'd start to rotate. If you get the club here, right, if you start to drop, this would be really weird. So the first thing is twist to get the club back over here and then go. We think that's what's happening there. This is very common for players who get across the line because the first thing you got to do is you got to get the club back in front of you. All this data just helps us not guess. Have you worked on the club going across the line before? Like, has your coach worked on that?
I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was doing is I was changing it.
So let me ask a question. Do you know why? Do you know why you're across the line?
No.
That's what we're looking for. Luis knows he goes across the line. His coach and him have been working on this for a while, but one of the things that can be problematic is what we call searching, when you don't know what's causing this, right? There could be many things that can cause cross the line. Par 5, get me there in 2.
Go after one. I mean, it looks really good. When you look at sequencing, yeah, it's really good.
Sometimes people change, modify things when they really go after it. And he still maintains his sequence. It looks good. So just like on the force plate, when we get to the 3D, The driver looks fantastic. I loved your force plate with the driver too. It was the iron where I had some issues. I want to watch an iron now.
The problem occurred when we started to look a little bit deeper. His sequencing was great with the driver. His force and pressure was great with the driver. Then we start to switch to the iron, where the swing gets a little bit shorter but is still across the line, and all of a sudden we notice it's not quite as good as the driver.
This is the only weird thing, is the lead wrist graphs. Everything else I love. I mean, if you don't go this way and you go this way, it's going to go across the line. That way, lay back over the line. Right? So a lot of times when you're investigating these types of problems and you're trying to solve the mystery of what's happening, there's two big buckets that usually fall into play here. It's either they can't do something because there's a physical problem. In other words, if you can't rotate through your hip, you're going to create a different strategy, and it creates these swing characteristics that we're dealing with. Another option is it could just be concept. Sometimes they just think they're supposed to do this. They think they're supposed to set their wrist this way. They think they're supposed to turn this way, and trying to solve that mystery is very important.
Everything you have is really good, right? So all we're trying to do is go, okay, could we get it a little bit more, down the line than across? Because it might help get it even better. It's already really good. Right? Part of the difficulty in getting better is you have these learned motor patterns. They're things, players that get to this level of a Luis or any elite level player, they've hit a lot of golf balls. They are students of the game. A motor pattern is the hardest thing to change. It gets vertical there, so you have the sleeves aside.
He gets up here, he's supinated, 5 degrees. Our average is 20 degrees pronated. Crazy. So Dave also mentions that when he was on the range, he noticed that Luis was really far from the ball. Sometimes distance from the golf ball can change the way the club rotates around the body. If you got closer, what do you think your hands would do instinctively?
That way is, I'm gonna be like this. And that way is more just turning. Yeah.
That's what I hope. Certain positions make your arms go more up, certain positions make your arms go around. And sometimes when you're far away from the ball, you would think you'd suck your arms in and go around, but a lot of times players just take the club out. And we're thinking maybe distance from the ball could be the problem. Set up to that ball like you're gonna hit. So hold this, both hands, eyes closed. Okay, keeping your eyes closed, set up to hit the ball. Keep your eyes closed. Okay, open your eyes. Ball too far away?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Why do you reach for the ball like that?
I don't know.
Can I film one like this? Try and hit it without shanking it.
Okay.
I'm ready. You shanked it. So, okay, hold on. Sequence is right back to perfect. Let's do that again.
The sequence is perfect.
Million, it's freaking perfect. As Luis gets closer to the golf ball, his kinematic sequence gets better. But now he still has this motor pattern of across the line, which could lead to getting him in trouble. So we're going to keep exploring to see what's causing that cross the line. Right, that's what I'm saying. If I can lay that back, because he can do it. That's what I think he should work on. Because he did it.
Yeah, he did do it.
Let's do this. I want him to film you taking a backswing. Just film backswing with just right hand only, and then backswing with left hand only. All right, now do left hand only. Let's look at this.
Crazy.
It's right hand, right?
Yeah, you can see what it does.
Put it up here so we can see it. Okay, let's do that again. And club goes across the line. Okay, let's see left arm. Club's laid off. What's the problem? Right arm.
Yeah.
It's interesting, if you have physical limitations, let's say the right side of your body is restricted, then you might start to develop these bad motor patterns. And if we eliminate the right side of the body, sometimes the brain goes, oh, I don't have those problems anymore, and your good swing reappears.
Can I do it with the left?
Yeah, left arm controls it.
That's perfect there.
That's perfect. You've been listening to your right arm.
Yeah.
Left arm only. Just get that feeling. Then I'd go right arm, just let it ride. And then put the right arm and just make sure the left's teaching the right arm over here. And I say, put your right arm here. I think it's going to be different than if you took your right arm over here and you'd be like, oh, that's different. The left will teach your right.
So one of the problems whenever you get this club across the line is distance wedges, we tend to have a shorter, wider backswing so that we can use our body rotation to deliver the club.
That is killing your distance wedge. That's exactly what's causing it.
And
Yeah,
just the consistency of how you hit it is, it's
I agree,
with the
1000%.
weight,
If you twist first and you go steep first, your instinct is the shallow late, and when you shallow late, wedges are very difficult. So you can see the same pattern that we're seeing in his force plate could be the biggest problem with his wedge.
So the minute we got him to feel more left arm and left arm wide, it kept his width, it took away some of this lift, and all of a sudden he was able to shallow the club coming down, which gave him the flight and spin control that he needs to be a great distance control wedge player.
If you had to let go with a hand during your swing, which hand would you let go of?
The left one.
You would? I got to see you do that. Hold on. If you had to let go of a hand, which one would you let go of? Go ahead and let me see you do like full swing. Like just pretend like you're doing a full swing.
It would be with the right hand.
Let me see.
No, it would be with the left hand.
Do it again. So which hand would you let go of?
The right hand. The right hand.
You're never going to let go of that left hand. Left hand's the driver. Right, as soon as you tried to do that, it was weird, right?
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the driver, but you've let the right hand, you even thought your right hand was supposed to drive it, but no, the left hand drives it.
It's the left hand.
It's the left hand. Right, that's really, really important to understand. So we're wrapping up and we're gonna go into the gym and I'm gonna show him some of the exercises he can do for his trunk and his hips. And all of a sudden, Luis mentioned something.
22, I just didn't have, so then I decided to work a lot more. on
Really?
my
So that was
mobility.
restricted before?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So the most common cause of what you're doing is the right arm loses range of motion and it develops this pattern. So you probably developed that pattern, but now you got the range back, but now it still remembers this whole pattern. That makes a lot of sense. So what's really interesting about old injuries, old problems, remember motor patterns or swing changes are developed around these limitations. So if Luis had a hard time rotating in through his right hip, had a hard time rotating through his spine, and he couldn't externally rotate his right shoulder, well, now it makes sense why the club will go across the line. There was nothing to lay the club off. You're an elite player and you're trying to get over here. Your brain goes, well, something's got to move, right? So it tries to move parts that shouldn't move. The problem is if you just work on shoulder, but you don't fix this, you can actually make the shoulder hypermobile because it's doing all the work that the trunk's supposed to be doing.
He said to us that he had had a shoulder injury, but he had been working on his mobility.
And I'm thinking, hey, you can do this now, or you've always had the ability to do it with your shoulder. It kind of threw a little wrench in the mystery here, but now that he says that he used to have a shoulder problem, we're probably dealing with a little old, bad motor pattern that was developed when he couldn't use his arm. So this could have been the start. Affected the shoulder. Can't get any more. I'll try and maybe get my ribs to move a little bit more. Pulls the costal cartilage here, and all of a sudden we get pain here in the front. I mean, it explains everything. So we need to make sure that this is gone.
And this is why it's so important to understand the development of junior golfers, right? Because although their bodies have changed, there's usually some inherent things in their golf swing that are still there. That motor pattern was developed way back then around their physicality.
We'll develop new swing patterns based on limitations. Just because you get rid of the limitation doesn't mean you get rid of that swing pattern. Those are hard to get rid of. Remember, these young players, if they're 19, 20 years old, they can play till they're 60, right? So we've got 40 years to try and preserve their body. When we're young, it's kind of like moldable clay. Not saying you can't do this as we get older, it just takes more work.